Hey there, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Today I'm going to be talking about consumer broadband labels. The FCC has set up their first public meeting on that to collect information, and I'll be right back and give you more information on that. Thanks for joining me. Rick Uzzi here with Broadband Deployment News. So the FCC has been busy the last couple of days. Today I'm going to be talking about broadband consumer labels. Some people call them broadband nutrition labels, kind of a cute idea, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like. And then also, that was a public notice that came out, and then also there's a public notice on broadband mapping. They provide a little bit more information about that. That's very important for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and they have set some dates on when they're going to start collecting that data and a deadline for collecting that data. So both of these topics would be of interest to you if you were an internet service provider, because you have requirements under both of these. That would be for the broadband nutrition labels, as we call them, and then also populating this map of data that is going to be determining who has broadband in this country. And again, all of that has to be in place before the NTIA will start distributing the vast majority of the funds related to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So I'm going to be talking about the broadband mapping stuff tomorrow. I'm reading through that notice right now, and I'll be kind of taking you through that tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button and ring the bell on YouTube, and you'll be notified when I'm live. So I'm going to go over that tomorrow. Today I'm going to be talking about the broadband nutrition labels, and what that is supposed to look like, we think, is something like this. When you go buy some cereal, you can compare. Here you've got Cheerios, which are almost tasteless, then you've got Lucky Charms, and surprisingly they both have the same number of calories. Although if you look at it, you can tell from these nutrition labels that Lucky Charms, their serving size is a cup, and Cheerios, their serving size is a cup and a half for kids over 4+ years there. Still very surprising that the number of calories are so close, even with just a half cup more. But the idea of these nutrition labels is that a consumer can go to the grocery store and look at them and compare things like sugar and calories and total carbs and those kinds of things, vitamins, and then decide what's the best option for me or my kids as I look at cereal, right? So the idea is very similar with broadband nutrition labels. I'll go over this public notice here in a minute, but this is the idea with the broadband nutrition labels, where you've got something that looks very similar. I don't know if they're going to do it this way, and they're not calling them nutrition labels on the FCC notice, but people have been calling it that because I think they're wanting to see it in this kind of simple format that, again, you can compare side by side. So if you're on the website of one service provider, you can go to the other service provider's website and then easily compare. So you can see things like how much they're charging per month. Is there a monthly charge? If you have a 2-year contract, you get a discount. How much data is included? They're going to be charged a monthly fee for your device, your cable modem lease right there. I guess that would be additional usage right here. And then other monthly fees, if that would be in there. And you've got activation fees, deposits, those kinds of things. All the stuff that you might want to know. And what they want to do is figure out what do we need to be collecting and what do service providers need to be providing on these labels, these consumer labels. So that's what this notice is about, to collect that information. So here you see the public notice. FCC announces the first public hearings on broadband consumer labels. FCC today announced the first of a series of virtual public hearings as part of its broadband consumer labels rulemaking proceeding. The IIJA, that's the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was signed into law in November, that bill instructed the agency to construct a series of public hearings to assess how consumers evaluate internet service plans and whether current disclosures are sufficient. So basically, I'm going to be collecting a lot of comments here, and this is open to everybody. So the first hearing will take place March 11th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It will stream free to the public at fcc.gov/live. The hearing will also be recorded and archived on the FCC's website. Event attendees can submit questions in advance or during the hearing by sending an email to this address right here. I'll go ahead and link to this document so that anybody who's interested can then download that, and you can contact them if you want to submit questions, that kind of thing, get more information. So information on the Commission's work on broadband information labels includes relevant documents, and including relevant documents is available at this address here, fcc.gov/broadband labels. Purpose of the first hearing will be to evaluate the effectiveness of the current transparency rule as required by the Infrastructure Act and provide necessary background for the new label requirement, including whether additional disclosure requirements are necessary. For additional information about the webinar, etc., there's a contact name right here. So anyway, real quick, I just wanted to let you know that this is coming up, and I will link to this document, and you can then get more information. So this, again, would be of interest, I would think, for consumers especially. I think they're looking for feedback from consumers on what information do you need to be able to make comparisons. I would think internet service providers as well would want to chime in on this as far as any challenges or questions or comments that they want to make on that. So again, I will link to this here in just a minute once this broadcast is over. So again, tomorrow, the topic tomorrow is of great interest, again, if you're an internet service provider or getting into that business, especially if you're going to be receiving funds from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, because, again, before any really significant funds can be released outside of, let's say, planning funds from that, anything that's going to be for deploying broadband, doing construction, those kinds of things, before they can even figure out how much each state is supposed to get for that, they need to figure out who has internet and who doesn't at the particular speeds, both unserved and unserved, because that is going to dictate the formula that is going to determine how much the state gets, as far as the amount of money that they get, especially for high cost areas and those kinds of things. So those maps are very important. The FCC has been working on that, and they've now got some dates starting in from June to September where they're going to be accepting this data. And if you are any kind of an internet service provider, then you are going to be required to be providing this data. So I will go ahead and dive into that tomorrow. I'll look through the public notice with you, and again, I'll link to that document at the end of that broadcast so that you can kind of get a heads up on that, on what is coming on these broadband maps. Very important for this infrastructure money, and also very important if you're an internet service provider, you need to be getting prepared to be able to provide this information, and you'll want to be able to comment on this, or provide comments to the FCC on what they're going to be looking for there. So thanks for joining me again. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Ring the little bell on YouTube, and you'll be notified when I'm live. If this was helpful for you, I know it was quick, but it was helpful, go ahead and give me a like on the video. I'd appreciate that. And I will see you next time, which is tomorrow, and I'll be talking about those broadband maps coming from the FCC. Talk to you later. Goodbye.